China is the key to saving Australia's economy, so people shouldn't make a fuss with Beijing over the detention of Stern Hu. At least that's the message from the West Australian Premier. Colin Barnett is in Shanghai. Today he told a lunch of high-powered Australian business figures there that they should remember, when talking about the arrest of Rio Tinto's staff, that Australia needs China much more than China needs Australia. China correspondent Stephen McDonald reports from Shanghai.
For the last decade, Shanghai has been a place of great prosperity for Australian businesses. But as they gathered today in China's economic capital, the mood was one of restraint and nervousness. The detention of Rio Tinto's Stern Hu and 3 others has left many here wondering about the dangers of doing business in China. Into this stepped the West Australian Premier, who had a message for those who've criticised China's handling of the Rio case.
China is more important to Australia than Australia is to China. And as Australians and people working and representing Australian business, I just urge you to be very conscious of that.
Nobody at today's business lunch wanted to talk to us on the record about the Rio Tinto bribery case. If the detention of Stern Hu is more than just a simple criminal matter, they don't know who could be targeted next. Late this afternoon, the Premier of Western Australia met the Mayor of Shanghai. He requested that the Stern Hu matter proceed quickly and that Australian diplomats get greater access to him. But he says there are greater issues at stake here.
I do have a concern that the amount of attention that this issue is attracting could in some way damage the long-term relationship between Australia and China.
And he reiterated what he said to business figures earlier on, that Australia has the most to lose in this stoush.
We depend on the growth of China and China continuing to buy from Australia for our economic prosperity. So I think it's a very clear message. And in fact, the message was not so much directed at China, but directed at Australia and Australian business people. Don't underestimate, don't complicate and don't confuse the relationship with China.
Chinese government officials have told us that they don't want Australians stirring things up with the Stern Hu case. Now, it seems the West Australian Premier is pushing the same line. But the tension between China and Australia is real, and it'll remain that way as long as this matter continues. Stern Hu, the head of Rio Tinto's China team, remains in custody in a detention centre on the outskirts of Shanghai. He still hasn't been charged, and the West Australian Premier was not told anything more about the allegations against him. Stephen McDonald, Lateline.